Welcome back, everyone. Today's guest is Alexandria Shaw with the Jim Shaw Academy. If you could please introduce yourself and tell the audience what you do and yeah, and what you're solving.
Yes. Hi. Thank you for having me. I am Alexandria or Alex Shaw, and I am the executive director of Jim Shaw Aviation Career and Education Academy, where our main focus is to teach, train, and educate students in all the aviation and aerospace opportunity in North Carolina and abroad. So we've been in business for about 14 years now, and I have been the leader for about 3 years now.
Got you. Give us the 60-second mission. What problem in the aviation talent pipeline is Jim Shaw Ace Academy uniquely solving in North Carolina?
You said 60-second what? Sorry.
The 60-second mission.
Yeah, so the mission is to empower all students, particularly in North Carolina and the Triad region, with the skills that they need in order to be successful in aviation and STEM careers. Um, So basically going beyond just, being a pilot and get your pilot license, but also being able to upskill in other, industries like tech, engineering, math, science, and all of those, important STEM fields to get them high demand, lucrative jobs, and to be, contributing members of our workforce development, not just for the city, but the state, and just, as a country as a whole. So that's kind of our mission, and our priority population is underrepresented minorities. So Black and brown kids and women.
Got you. How do you measure impacts beyond camp week, returning students, STEM club retention, certification, starter, or instructor recommendations?
We measure impact by not only how many students are pursuing these careers and fields, but also with how many students are coming back to us. So, because we're able to serve middle school and high school, we have students that go through our program for the entirety, of their education experience. So, not only just coming through our summer camp that runs 5 days a week, but also coming back for our STEM club. And then now, like our flight festival that we do, that's how we measure impact. And then also just job placement. So, building a true pipeline of students that can go into jobs that are at like Honda Jet or HAECO, and then really just making sure that they have the tools that they need to be successful in those careers. So, not only getting them in there, but building a true pipeline and community so that they feel supported when they're in these roles, even if they're studying to get their A&P license and become an A&P mechanic working on planes. I
Got you.
think that
Got
was
you.
a two-part question. Did I answer that though?
No, you answered it perfectly. That was great.
Okay, perfect.
So, do you think the future of aviation training will lean more on simulators or even AI co-instructors that adapt to each student's pace?
Yeah, I mean, even in the present day right now, simulators, when you think about the new generation that's going to take over for us one day, they are hands-on, they are technology based, they are even social media based. So a lot of
Yeah.
hands-on learning is super important when it comes to flight simulations so that they can really get a feel for what it would be like to be in these positions when they become, young adults and adults further. And then when you think about AI, I mean, AI is one of those things where you can either get with it or get lost. Like it's
Yeah.
here, it's been here, and we just have to find new loopholes and ways to adapt to it. Instead of saying that it's taking, okay, well, what are we actually gaining, with artificial intelligence is really the goal, and making sure again that those students know that because they don't know what they don't know. But like I
Hmm.
said, they do know that technology is the present and the future.
Yeah. Okay. How do you measure impact beyond camp week, returning students? Oh, I think I asked you. My bad. Demand signals show a multi-decade need, pilots, technicians in the hundreds of thousands. Which roles do your students ask about the most? How are you steering them?
I actually get a lot of students that ask about aerospace engineering. We are
Hmm.
fortunate to have a Collins Aerospace here where they actually work on aircraft interiors. But engineering is such a broad, you know, kind of discipline that you really can the sky is literally the limit, no pun intended. But I
Mm,
mean, even them going to places like NCA&T, who's the engineering school, and studying there is important. But I think that most students ask about becoming a pilot, but not just a commercial pilot. I mean, some of my students want to be fighter jet pilots, and I'm like, first of
well,
all, you all are so cool because at your age, I just wanted to play basketball, you know.
I wanted to
But
at one point, but
yeah.
I changed my mind.
Yeah, so becoming a pilot and then, like I said, engineering, I think are kind of the main things that a lot of my students want to do. So it's just about getting in front of those people that can teach them those disciplines and let them know, this is what it takes is really the goal. Beyond that, I would say A&P mechanics because A&P mechanics can not only work on aircraft, but they can work on cars, they can work on roller coasters and a bunch of other, cool things that kids are interested in. But I think
Mhm.
those would be the main three, mechanics, pilots, and engineers.
Got you. Okay. We've seen big names in new aviation struggle, long certification timelines, capital intensity, and unclear unit economics. Which lessons translate to education and workforce programs?
I'm sorry, what's the question?
Oh, okay, I'm gonna repeat it. I said we've seen big names in new aviation struggle, long certification timelines, capital intensity, and unclear unit economics. Which lessons translate to education and workforce programs?
You just want me to like speak on that?
Hmm.
Yeah, so I feel like a lot of it is just exposure. That's one of the main barriers, but then beyond that, it's going to be finances. Um,
Hmm.
so I feel like letting students know like, hey, the FA has these scholarships available, or they're trying to really change the face and the future of aviation. That's really our mission. So just making sure that it's getting out to the right people is important. I don't know if I answered that question.
No, you're good. You can
Okay.
just, yeah. Okay.
Okay.
As aviation faces a pilot and mechanical shortage, how can tech or even AI help spark early interest and make pathways clear?
Because it's about meeting the students where they're at, and that's exactly where they're at. Like I said, in
Mm,
technology, they know how to use Chat GPT probably better than, the next person. They're, telling their parents, "Hey, this is what I'm doing." And it's not just about like the words that Chat GPT can help you with, but it's about the imagery. So it's like really taking an idea and putting it into Chat GPT to really like materialize it is so important right now.
mm,
And I think that that really is not just the future, but the present. So, one example we've done is we've had students say, "Hey, I want you to design a drone." And you're going to basically draw out what you think that drone will do and what it will look like. And then we took it a step further and we put that into ChatGPT and
mm,
really letting them not only conceptualize, but visualize their dreams because you never know. I may have one of the next biggest inventors, in my class just because they're using that AI, that technology to make the future better. So
mm,
again, just making sure that we're meeting them where they're at, but then also knowing that we're keeping track of all the trends like artificial intelligence to make sure that we're saying, hey, as long as you use it in this way, it's good. Because if not, there's a lot of different things and access and resources that these kids can get into that wouldn't be as positive. But, designing your own drone, making an innovative technology is definitely, again, what we're trying to push them towards.
mm. If you could design your dream version of aviation education with unlimited resources and the best tools available, what would it look like?
Oh my God, I love this question. So it would be a hands-on center where students can come either after school or during the summer and they can get all the hands-on learning they need. So not only, we have flight simulators where you can fly a plane, but flight simulators for drones. We also could have like dedicated staff there that have all of these, certifications and even pilot license that can say, hey, if you want to be a commercial pilot, come right here to my center. are part of the center, and this is where I can teach you about becoming a commercial pilot, what the studying takes. If you want to be a private pilot, come here. Even if we can have flight attendants there. Some people
Mm,
want to be flight attendants and see the perks of, being in aviation in a kind of like more of a customer service role. But also, flight attendants are there to save your life. They're really not there to
yeah.
serve you. That's just one of the perks. But, and then merging those technologies with like healthcare, manufacturing, real estate. We could fly drones. It would be somewhere where it's not on airport grounds, so we don't need FAA permissions.
Hmm.
But it would be cool to be on airport grounds so that we can have like static aircraft displays. Some of those aircraft could be deconstructed so that the A&P mechanics can really work on it. Some of those aircraft could be, usable aircraft that we use, but not just planes, but helicopters and paramotors and just everything that we can have, like I said, hands on. And then a lab, because a lot of the information we learn these days is off the computer. So a
Hmm.
lab where we're not just doing the flight simulators, but we can do research, we can watch videos, and we can just really inspire them. What would be my dream situation where I have an unlimited amount of people, time, and money, but just a hands-on learning aviation and aerospace center would be the goal.
Gotcha. Do you think mentorship or exposure will always be the foundation, no matter how advanced technology becomes?
Yes, because that cliche saying of you got to see it to believe it. You know,
Hmm.
being a black minority, I mean, being a double minority, a black woman, sometimes people may think, oh, well, she can't do this, or maybe she doesn't see things this way, but they don't understand that that's actually my superpower. So
Hmm.
representation is super important, especially when you're thinking about, young black kids who may not get these opportunities. No one really tells them they can be it. So representation is super important in mentorship. So whenever it doesn't matter what fields you want to go into, community is important. Being able to be around like-minded individuals who are all working towards the same goal to be successful, whether that be in aviation or healthcare or legal, whatever it is, law that you want to do, having a community of not just mentors, but peers, around your age where you can bounce ideas off of. Like I said, just to make your future better. So I think that mentorship and representation is super important, especially again, if you fly commercial, the chances of you getting a black pilot is very slim. You might get a
Hmm.
black flight attendant, but a pilot, and then we have all of these, opinions about how did black people even get those jobs now? And it's like, okay, well, let me show you. And that's really our goal is to put us in these positions so that because we already have to work twice as hard, but
Hmm.
putting us in these positions where we're at these boardrooms and we're making these decisions and just basically being leaders is the goal. So mentorship, community representation is really what we're all about, and just providing that and being that person that we always wanted when we were growing up.
Word like that.
Thank you.
Your academy has had incredible impact stories. How do you usually track or measure success over time? Is that something technology could make easier?
Yes, I definitely think technology could make it easier because right now it's kind of like a word of mouth program because we've been going on this ride for 14 years now. It's like some people will come up to me and they're like, "Hey, my daughter went through your program and now she's, studying biotechnology." And I'm like, "That's great." And I just write it down. Or sometimes it just happens by chance like that again, where I'm meeting with somebody and they're telling me, "You know what? Well, my cousin actually went through your program and now he's actually a private pilot." But I feel
Mm,
like automation especially could definitely help with that, because we can basically track people, saying like, hey, we still want to keep in contact with you, and I don't know, some type of engineered something that can make it a lot easier so that it's not always by chance, but we're being more intentional about tracking that. And
mm,
then we can even go a step further and do what we've done in the past and invite them back to talk to our current students to say, hey, I was sitting right where you were sitting. I did this, I did that, and now look at me now. I'm exactly where you guys want to be in the future. So I definitely think that technology could help track that so that we can have just more more common knowledge of who is doing what in the future.
Gotcha. If you could instantly know how your students are progressing a year later, like who's flying, studying, or interning, what would that mean for your vision?
I mean, it would mean the world to me because, we all do things, maybe because we need to pay bills and we need money, but the best, I guess, not only feedback, but like impactfulness that I could say that gives me chills is when these students are actually pursuing things and they never thought that they would pursue.
Mm,
But then coming through your program and they're like, wow, when I went on that discovery flight, like I saw my house and I saw the YMCA and it really
mm,
gives them a whole new outlook on life. So making sure that that impact actually translate to students being successful and no matter what career they choose, it is
mm,
is the best feeling in the world.
gotcha. Do you think the next decade of aviation careers will look different? Maybe more hybrid roles and that blend human skill with automation?
Yes, more hybrid roles because of automation. Some people say, hey, AI is here to take our jobs. But the thing about AI is that somebody has to maintain it. So it's
Yeah.
not really about taking of the jobs, it's about finding new lanes and new careers to pivot into. So I
Mm,
definitely think that automation can be positive. We just have to think about how we're looking at it and how we're utilizing it for good.
hmm Do you track student progress or alumni outcomes in any digital system, or is that handled more manually through instructors or staff and staff?
You said, do I track what again?
Student progress or alumni outcomes?
Yes, we do. So the students that we are able to keep in contact with and track after their high school careers, the ones that are studying to, be mechanics and things like that, we definitely try to keep a hold on them so that again, not only can they come back and mentor, but so that we can also be a support to them. So it's kind of like a give to a get situation. So we've
Mm,
given you the tools that you need to study whatever it is that you want to study or pursue whatever skill it is that you want to pursue in aviation. But okay, again, what do you need from us? Whether that be just support. I would love to give scholarships one day.
hmm
So been just providing resources or saying, hey, you went to Hampton to study aviation. Okay, cool. Well, can now Hampton come back, even if it's not you, come back and teach our students a little bit about what they taught you? Obviously, they can't do a whole curriculum in 5 days, but can
hmm
they at least come show face, be a little bit closer to the student's age? Because if people don't know the aviation careers, a lot of like some of them like pilots and even air traffic control, you have to be phased out at a certain age.
Yeah.
So making sure that that next generation is like, okay, well, I'm coming to take your job because I have to one day, is really important.
Lastly, what's worked with the broader participation, especially for girls and underrepresented students in a field that still skews male?
What works for me is just being intentional. Not only will it's very rare to have a woman pilot, but it's very rare to see a woman leading a nonprofit sometimes too, but
Mm,
particularly a nonprofit that is centered around aviation. Because again, representation, we don't see ourselves doing that. So I've been super intentional about making sure that scholarships go to Black students needing financial assistance, Hispanic students that need financial assistance, and women who want to be in the career or, need financial assistance. So I feel
mm,
like if everybody was a little bit more intentional about, kind of bridging that gap between disparities and barriers, whether that be transportation, finances, or just access, I think the world can be a little bit better and we can have a little bit more diverse workforce, particularly in aviation and aerospace, because it's not that they don't want this information. It's not that they don't want to pursue these careers. They just don't know how. And not only do they not know how, but they're not like, well, I don't see anybody like Daniel in it. So how could I do it? So Again,
Mm.
just making sure that they see themselves within somebody in your organization. So having a diverse, organization, a diverse board, diverse staff, is important, and making sure that your programming is also intentional about diversity, and equity as well.
Word. All right, that was great, Alexandria. That was amazing. You got a
Perfect.
really get a really great insights. I really I really connected with what you were saying. I think what you were saying was great. All
Thank
right,
you.
so thank you guys all for watching. This is Alex Shaw with Jim Shaw Academy. I'm gonna go ahead and end the recording right now.